You know, Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, it's this 6-minute epic, right? A total landmark. But here's the thing. Sometimes the biggest stories are hiding in the smallest corners. So for this explainer, we're not going to tackle the whole song. No, we're going to put just one single stanza under the microscope. We're going to see how Dylan crafts this whole universe of collapse and consequence in just a handful of lines. It's pretty amazing. All right, let's get into it.
So here it is, the entire second verse, right there. And you know, on the surface, it seems like a pretty simple story. But what's incredible is that packed into just these 9 lines is, well, it's a complete story of a fall from grace. It's a whole movie. So let's break it down and really unpack the journey Dylan takes us on line by powerful, powerful line.
Okay, so the verse kicks off by immediately setting up our character's past, right? Her privileged background. But what's key here is that Dylan isn't just, setting the scene. He's already passing judgment. He's basically saying her entire life up to this point has been a kind of hollow performance.
And what's so brilliant about this opening is how fast he just dismisses it all. He's like, yeah, you've gone to the finest school, all right, but then he immediately pulls the rug out. It wasn't about learning, it wasn't about building character. Nope, it was a place where you only used to get juiced in it. Her whole education was basically just another form of empty consumption, and it left her completely unprepared for the real world. And get this, the name he calls her? Miss Lonely. Even back then, her so-called status was already isolating her.
So we go from that pretty useless education and bam, Dylan just throws her, and really us too, smack into the harsh reality of the real world. The switch is so fast, and it is absolutely brutal. This right here, this is the moment the floor just completely gives out from under her. Think about it. All that money for tuition, all those fancy connections, and she doesn't know the first thing about how to survive. It's this crushing realization that her whole life has been a kind of fiction. And that last part, and now you find out you're going to have to get used to it, wow, it's just so cold, so final. There's no one coming to save her. This is it. This is her life now.
And this just perfectly shows the complete 180 her world has taken. I mean, the language itself tells the story of the fall. The casual, almost flippant, get juiced in it, gets swapped out for the grim, hard reality of having to get used to it. She's gone from the ivory tower straight to the unforgiving pavement.
All right, so her old world is completely gone. And now, the verse makes her face someone who is the embodiment of everything she used to look down on. This is where it all comes to a head, the real moment of truth. And the heart of this confrontation is a broken promise. See, back in her old life, she had these principles, or at least she thought she did. She told herself she would never compromise with someone like the mystery tramp. But, principles can be a luxury. And when you're desperate, well, desperation makes you face a whole new reality about who you really are.
This next line, it's just pure poetic genius. He's not selling any alibis. The tramp isn't offering up excuses or trying to soften the blow. He represents a world that has been completely stripped of all pretense. He is who he is, and when she's standing in front of him, she's forced to be what she has become. There are no escape clauses, no way out.
I mean, just think about what an alibi is, right? It's a story you tell to get yourself out of trouble. But here, on the street, standing with this guy, stories don't matter. Her money, her family name, her past, none of it works anymore. All that's left is the raw, totally unfiltered present moment.
And then there's this image, so chilling. She stares into the vacuum of his eyes. It's not anger she sees there, not pity. It's a vacuum, an emptiness. And what that tells you is, he's not judging her. He's probably seen this 1,000 times before. His gaze is just a blank mirror, and it's reflecting her own emptiness, her own fall. She is literally looking her new reality right in the face, and it's looking right back.
So this encounter, this staring contest with reality itself, it forces her hand. And this is where the verse pivots into its climax. We're about to see the final humbling act of surrender.
And then it comes. The person who, once probably threw dimes at people she called bums, is now asking to make a deal with a mystery tramp. The power dynamic has completely flipped. This is so much more than just a transaction. This is the moment she surrenders her entire former identity. She's asking for help from the absolute bottom of the social ladder she used to be on top of. So with her pride completely shattered, her past basically erased, there's nothing left, except for Dylan to deliver the final verdict. The story part of the verse is done, and now comes that iconic, taunting question that's going to echo through the entire rest of the song.
And here we go. We've arrived at that relentless, echoing question.
He doesn't start with something practical, like, so what are you going to do now? No, he goes for something deeply personal, almost an accusation. How does it feel? Just like that, Dylan shifts the focus completely inward, forcing her, and us really, to face the raw, emotional truth of this total collapse.
And then he asks it again, just hammering the point home. This isn't him repeating himself for clarity. It's a rhythmic taunt. It's the sound of judgment. It's a question that doesn't even really need an answer, because the answer is obvious, isn't it? It's right there in her situation.
Then comes the first blow, to be on your own. Her whole life before was defined by her connections, her social circle, who she knew. Dylan just rips all of that away, and he zeroes in on the core of her new life. Absolute, total isolation.
With no direction home. Man, this line just makes the despair so much deeper. It's not just that she's alone anymore. Now she's completely lost. Home, that's supposed to be safety, identity, a place you can go back to. For her, that idea has been completely wiped off the map.
And the next hit, like a complete unknown. This is the total destruction of her ego. The Ms. Lonely who went to the finest school, she's gone. In the eyes of the world, and probably now in her own eyes too, she's nobody, a ghost, anonymous, invisible.
And finally, we get to the immortal line that just ties it all together. Like a rolling stone? You know the saying, a rolling stone has no roots, gathers no moss, has no attachments. It's this image of, well, it's a terrifying kind of freedom, isn't it? Total aimlessness. It is the perfect final metaphor for how completely she has been displaced from the world she used to know. So let's just step back for a second. In the space of one single verse, we have witnessed a complete story. We've seen a character stripped of her privilege, then her pride, and finally her entire identity. It just leaves her completely adrift in a world she has no idea how to navigate.
And that, right there, is the power of this verse. It does so much more than just tell a story. It leaves you with that relentless, echoing question ringing in your ears. It kind of forces you to think about the foundations of your own identity, you know? And what would happen if all that was just suddenly swept away, leaving you with nothing but the feeling of the fall?